Welcome to my channel, The World of Science Fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
The distress call tore through static like a scream. SOS, dying, help! Evan Carter's fingers clamped around the receiver. Wind shrieked through the metal graveyard, carrying burnt oil and rust. Acid rain pitted the twisted scrap around him. 3 drops hissed against his shoulder armor. Blood-red clouds pressed lower. The voice whispered now, "Help, please." Tick's sensors whirred beside him, the robotic dog's mismatched plates reflecting crimson clouds. His antenna tail locked toward the distant docking bay, quivering with urgency. "Location?" Evan rasped, voice raw from disuse. 800 meters northeast. Signal fading. Tick's voice modulator carried that mechanical rasp, damaged in their last escape, yet somehow warmer than any human voice Evan had heard in years. Evan scanned the landscape. Machine carcasses jutted like broken ribs from scorched earth. The docking bay's entrance gaped, a black wound in the gathering darkness. "Trap," he muttered, shifting his toolkit. The weight pulled at his old shoulder wound. Tick's optical array locked on his face. "You said that last time." Evan flinched. A burning building flashed behind his eyes. A child's scream, his own footsteps running away, 7 years of nightmares since. Tick's cold snout pressed against Evan's palm, metal against flesh. "You never leave your own behind," Tick said. "We're a team." A bitter smile cut across Evan's face. "When did you get so damn sentimental?" "When you fixed my emotional processor." 3 years, 2 months, 14 days ago. Tick's tail flicked once. "You cursed for a week straight. Best mistake I ever made." Evan checked his pulse tool. The charge indicator blinked red, half power. In the distance, a shadow moved across the bay entrance, then vanished. They moved through the waste. Acid droplets pierced the air like bullets, hissing against metal. Evan's boots crunched on glass. Tick's paws clicked against broken concrete. The storm's electric charge raised the hair on Evan's neck. Tick froze 50 meters from the docking bay, head dropping low. "What?" Evan's hand flew to his pistol. "Blood." Tick's voice dropped to a mechanical growl. "Fresh." A dark trail glistened on the scorched ground. Not oil, blood with an eerie blue tint that caught what little light remained. "Non-human," Tick confirmed. "Proximar biochemistry." "Refugees," Evan muttered. His finger traced the blood's path to the docking bay's maw. The trail widened as it disappeared inside. Whoever left it was bleeding out fast. 3 heartbeats inside, Tick said, one fading. Evan drew his pistol. His hand didn't shake. Fear wasn't for what waited inside, but for his own failure. Last time someone needed him, he'd run. A child had died. "You won't fail," Tick said, reading his mind. "Not this time." "How can you be so sure?" Tick's damaged optical array fixed on him. "Because I won't let you." The blood trail thickened as they approached. Each footstep left a wet print, half oil, half blood. Tick switched to silent mode, combat systems humming beneath his plating. At the entrance, the distress signal cut out completely. Silence crashed down. Evan touched Tick's flank. "Stay close." The smell hit first, iron-rich blood mixed with burning circuits. Then a sound, wet, labored breathing punctuated by something else. A growl, not mechanical, primal. "Workshop area," Tick whispered. 20 meters. "I feel it." Evan's boots slid in fluid. The mixture of oil and blood created a dark slurry that pulled at each step. They pushed deeper, past looming cargo containers. The breathing grew more desperate. The growling intensified. Evan rounded the final container and froze. Carnage. Tools scattered across blood-slick floors. Shattered screens cast blue light over upturned tables. And there, slumped against a workbench, a massive blue-skinned figure. A Proximar woman, 7 feet tall at least, her muscular frame going slack with blood loss. Each breath came shallower than the last. One massive hand pressed against a gaping wound in her side. The other clutched protectively at a smaller figure. A child, blue-skinned but small, even by human standards. Her face was streaked with blood, some blue, some human red. Her torn clothes revealed dense Proximar musculature tensed for battle. In one hand, a broken sword, edge still wet. In the other, a pendant that caught the blue light. She planted herself between them and her mother, small body vibrating with rage. She growled, a sound too large for her frame, all fury and desperation. Tick responded with a warning growl, positioning himself between Evan and the child. The girl's eyes widened at the mechanical dog, but her sword remained steady. "They came with swords," she said, voice cracking. "You have iron. Traitor or friend?" Evan slowly holstered his pistol. Her eyes tracked every movement, muscles coiling tighter. He knelt, placing his toolkit between them. He unrolled it, revealing medical tools alongside repair equipment. "Not here to kill," he said. "Here to fix." The words hung between them. The girl's sword trembled, her gaze darting between Evan and her dying mother. Tick eased down, weapon still primed but voice gentler. "We can help." A calculation flashed across the girl's face, not trust, but desperate necessity. Her mother's breathing had become a wet rasp. Time was slipping away. She stepped aside, pendant clutched so tightly her knuckles whitened against blue skin. "Shara," she whispered, nodding to her mother. "I'm Rhea." Evan approached, hands visible, focus locked on the wound. "Evan, Tick." He knelt beside Shara. Her eyes fluttered open, violet irises clouded with pain. Arterial damage, heavy blood loss. His hands reached for coagulant spray and surgical mesh. Shara's hands shot out, gripping his wrist with crushing strength. "My daughter," she rasped. "Keep her safe. Let me save you first." A bitter smile cracked her blue lips. Always lying to the dying. Metal scraped against concrete. Rhea had moved to the workshop entrance, broken sword raised, eyes fixed on the shadows. "They're coming back," she hissed, terror breaking through her mask of defiance. Tick's sensors rotated toward the sound. Multiple heat signatures, armed, moving in formation. Evan's hands worked faster on Shara's wound. "How many?" "5, military-grade weapons." Shara's eyes widened. "Not marauders, hunters, for us." Rhea backed toward them, sword shaking now. "We can't fight." Mother can't move. The desperation in her voice stripped away all pretense. "Help us." Shadows moved in the corridor. Tick positioned himself between them and the entrance, weapons humming beneath his armor. Evan looked from Shara's wound to the approaching hunters, 30 seconds before discovery. "Tick," he whispered. "Protection protocol, priority on the child." The dog's tail stiffened. "What about you?" Evan met Rhea's eyes, so fierce, already carrying the weight of a world that wanted her dead. He saw in Shara the same desperate courage he'd witnessed in countless refugees. "I'll distract them," he said, rising. "Get them to the emergency access tunnel. Rendezvous at checkpoint 2. Suicide play," Tick said flatly. "Distraction," Evan replied, gripping his toolkit. "Trust me." Shadows fell across the entrance. Evan stepped forward, hands raised. "Looking for something?" he called, voice echoing. 5 figures froze in the corridor. Weapons trained on him instantly. Tactical masks, assault armor, no insignia, mercenaries. "Stand down, scavenger," the leader barked. "Not your concern." Behind him, Tick silently herded Rhea and Shara toward the maintenance panel. Evan needed to hold their attention. "Found something interesting," Evan said, gesturing vaguely. "Blue skin, 7 feet tall, research station would pay well." The hunters exchanged glances. The leader stepped forward. "That property belongs to my employer." "Property?" Evan raised an eyebrow. "It's funny, it was talking earlier." A subtle click behind told him Tick had opened the access panel. Seconds now. The leader raised his weapon. "Final warning. Move or die with them." Evan's smile was all teeth. Cornered animals bite back. He dropped as Tick's cannon fired over his head. The blast caught the lead hunter square in the chest. Chaos erupted. Hunters diving for cover. Return fire peppering the walls. Evan rolled behind a workbench. Bullets tore into metal inches from his face. Through smoke and sparks, he saw Tick shepherding Rhea through the access panel. The girl half-dragged her massive mother. "Go," he shouted. "Get them out." Tick hesitated, loyalty warring with programming, before disappearing through the panel. Alone now, Evan pulled an EMP grenade from his toolkit. One shot. He'd lose contact with Tick. but the hunters would lose targeting systems. He primed it, counted 3, threw. Darkness crashed down as the pulse washed over them. Hunter weapons died with electric whines. Evan moved through blackness from memory, sliding past disoriented mercenaries. A hand caught his ankle. He slammed into the floor, toolkit scattering. A hunter loomed over him, mask torn away to reveal a scarred face twisted with rage. "Where are they?" The man pressed a knife to Evan's throat. The blade bit into skin. Blood trickled warm down his neck. "Gone," Evan gasped. "Far away." The hunter pressed harder. "You have no idea what you've done." "What they are." "I know exactly what they are," Evan replied. "People. Running from butchers." Something cracked against the hunter's skull. The man collapsed in a heap. Rhea stood over Evan, clutching his heavy wrench, eyes wild. "I came back," she whispered. "Mother said never leave allies." Tick appeared behind her, mechanical jaw clamped around another hunter's arm. "Exit compromised," he growled through metal teeth. "Need new plan." Evan staggered to his feet, blood pulsing from his neck. "Shara?" "Hidden," Rhea said, backing toward a tech compartment, bleeding badly. The remaining hunters recovered. Systems rebooted with electric whines, seconds left. "This way," Evan urged, following Rhea and Tick. Inside the compartment, Shara slumped against a shattered bulkhead. Her breathing was wet, labored. Her blue skin had turned ashen. Her eyes found Rhea, relief washing over her features. "Told you." "Stay hidden," she rasped. Rhea knelt beside him. "Be kinder than their swords," she whispered, voice breaking. "Fix her." Evan assessed the damage. The wound had reopened during the move. Fresh blood seeped through the bandage, mixing with the oil on the floor. Tick's tail cable unspooled. Tourniquet function. The cable looped around Shara's massive torso, tightening to stem the flow. Evan rummaged through his scattered tools, hands slick with blood. His and hers. Need to close it. Cauterize. Shara's eyes locked with his, sudden clarity cutting through pain. "Do it." Evan pulled his army wrench, modified with a heating element for welding. Never meant for flesh. He adjusted settings, hands steadying with purpose. "This will hurt." A ghost smile touched her lips. "Everything hurts," Rhea watched, white-knuckled, as Evan pressed the superheated tool against her mother's wound. The smell of burning flesh filled the compartment. Shara's jaw locked, muscles rigid with agony. When done, Evan sat back. Sweat mixed with blood on his face. The wound was sealed, ugly but stable. Shara's eyes found her daughter, then Evan. For the first time she smiled, pain and gratitude transforming her fierce features. "Why help?" she whispered. An explosion shook the compartment before Evan could answer. Dust and debris rained from the ceiling. Tick's sensors rotated wildly. "Detection, fuel ignited. They're flushing us out with fire." Alarms wailed throughout the complex. Through the viewport, flames licked up the far wall, turning the metal red. "Storm intensifying," Tick added, head tilting. "Acid rain at critical P." Rhea looked between them, fear etching her young face. "What does that mean?" "Trapped," Evan said flatly. "Burn in here or dissolve out there." A crash echoed outside, something heavy striking metal. The hunters were breaking through. "Options?" Evan gathered his remaining tools, each movement sending pain through his lacerated neck. Tick's processors hummed. Flooding in lower corridors. Oil-water mixture. Narrow passage to south exit. Vehicle bay beyond. Evan turned to Shara. "Can you move?" The Proximar woman struggled to sit straighter, blue skin pulling tight across pain-clenched muscles. "With help." "I'll carry her," Rhea insisted, positioning herself under her mother's massive arm. "Together," Evan corrected, taking Shara's other side. Their hands met under her weight, his 5 fingers against Rhea's 6. They moved awkwardly toward the rear door, Tick leading, sensors sweeping. The moment they entered the corridor, reality hit harder than the hunter's knife. Water poured from overhead vents, mixing with leaking oil to create a toxic, rainbowed slurry. It rose ankle-deep already, climbing fast. Emergency lights flashed red through the gloom, reflecting off the dark water like blood. Behind, hunters closing in. Ahead, smoke filling the passage. "Move," Evan urged, half dragging Shara forward. They splashed through rising flood, each step a fight against the slick surface. Rhea struggled under her mother's weight, but refused to let go. Her shoulders trembled with effort, but her jaw remained set. Tick suddenly stopped. Obstruction. Emergency bulkhead deployed. A massive barrier blocked the corridor. Evan cursed. Bypass? Tick scanned for alternatives. Negative. Only route not compromised by fire. Shara's breathing grew more labored, her frame sagging between them. They couldn't retreat, couldn't stay. Break it down, Evan ordered, lowering Shara against the wall. The oily water rose to her wounded side. Tick's mechanical features sharpened with purpose. Stand back. The dog braced himself, hydraulics whirring. With a roar that wasn't entirely mechanical, Tick launched at the barricade. Metal slammed into metal. Again and again he charged. Each impact dented the bulkhead deeper. Each retreat revealed new damage to his frame. Sparks shot from stressed joints. Oil leaked from punctured hydraulics. Stop, Rhea cried out. You'll break. Tick paused only to look back, optical sensors flaring with determination. Built to protect, he replied before hurling himself at the barrier once more. On the seventh impact, something gave with a thunderous groan. The bulkhead buckled inward, a gap just wide enough to squeeze through. Tick staggered back, one leg dragging, plating dented and sparking. Proceed, he managed, voice glitching between words. They had just helped Shara to her feet when a shot cracked through the corridor. Something hot tore through Evan's sleeve, burning a line across his arm. Go, he shouted, pushing Rhea and Shara toward the damaged bulkhead. A hunter appeared at the corridor's end, weapon raised for another shot. Tick didn't pause. The damaged dog launched himself down the flooded passage, a blur of metal and fury. Evan focused on helping Shara through the gap. Her massive frame barely fit despite her weakened state. Rhea slipped through easily, turning to help from the other side. Behind them, combat sounds, a mechanical growl, human screams, something heavy hitting water. Then silence. Tick? Evan called, voice tight with fear. 3 heartbeats. Nothing. Then the dog appeared, limping heavily toward the bulkhead. Left front leg non-functional, dragging through rising water. Deep gouges marred his plating. One optical sensor had gone dark completely. Threat? Neutralized, Tick reported, struggling through the gap. No time to check damage. The flood rose faster now. Smoke thickened with each breath. Vehicle bay, Evan reminded them. Only chance. They pressed on, Shara growing heavier between them. Her eyes unfocused, breathing shallow. Fresh blood seeped through the cauterized wound. The rough movement had reopened it. Minutes later, they reached a final door. Beyond, the open yard of the vehicle bay, illuminated by emergency floodlights and the apocalyptic glow of spreading fire. Tick scanned through the viewport. Transport vehicle, 30 meters across open ground. Hunters? Evan adjusted his grip on Shara. His shoulder burned where the bullet had grazed him. Negative, Tick replied. But storm. Lightning struck nearby with a deafening crack. The building shook. Through the viewport, acid rain fell in sheets, hissing against metal, eating through exposed surfaces. Move fast, Evan said to Rhea. Your mother can't run. I'll carry her. Rhea shook her head fiercely. Together. Started together. Evan recognized the stubborn set of her jaw, no arguing. Tick, lead, clear path if needed. The damaged dog nodded, bracing at the door. 3, 2, 1, bam-hasi. They burst into the open yard. Acid rain slammed into exposed skin like liquid fire. Wind howled, tearing at their clothes. They pushed forward, half-dragging Shara toward the transport vehicle's looming shape. Each step burned. The acid ate into Evan's neck wound. Rhea's face contorted in pain, but she didn't slow, didn't cry out. Halfway there, floodlights swung toward them. Blinding, merciless. Shapes materialized from the darkness. Hunters. They'd circled around to cut off escape. Stop right there, a voice commanded over the storm. Tick positioned himself in front, damaged body still somehow intimidating. Evan and Rhea halted. Shara sagged between them, barely conscious. One hunter stepped forward, weapon trained on Rhea. The child comes with us. The rest die here. Rhea went rigid. No, she whispered, panic rising. No, no, no. The hunter took another step. Your mother's dead anyway. Come quietly, we'll make it painless for her. Something in Rhea snapped. She lunged forward with a scream of rage and terror. "You can't save us!" she shrieked at Evan. "You'll break too, like my dog." She snatched Evan's wrench from his belt, raised it against the hunter, a child's final futile defiance. The hunter aimed at Rhea's heart. Time slowed. Evan saw it all with terrible clarity, the hunter's finger tightening, Rhea's small body exposed, Shara's eyes flying open with a mother's final surge of protective instinct. But Tick moved first. The damaged robot dog hurled himself between Rhea and the hunter. His broken body absorbed the blast meant for her. The impact sent him tumbling across rain-slick ground, sparks flying from ruptured systems. Evan's cry came from somewhere primal, deep. Shara used the distraction to lunge forward with unexpected strength, slamming into two hunters, sending them sprawling. Evan raced to Tick's side. The dog lay motionless, his remaining optical sensor flickering weakly. "Stay with me," Evan pleaded, hands hovering over the shattered frame. Wires sparked beneath torn plating. Hydraulic fluid mixed with rainwater, creating rainbow patterns on the ground. Tick's voice modulator crackled with static. "Power cell. Functional," he managed. "Take it. Transport. Needs power." Rhea appeared beside them, her face twisted with grief and guilt. Tick's sensor found her. "Hold on," the dog whispered. "Lipisium." With mechanical precision despite failing systems, Tick detached his power cell and pressed it into Evan's hand. The dog's light dimmed further. Rhea uncurled her fingers from her mother's pendant, the first time she'd released it since they'd met. She pressed it into Evan's palm alongside the power cell. "Fix it," she whispered, voice breaking on the words. Hunters regrouped. Shara had collapsed again, her final strength spent. The transport vehicle loomed just meters away, their only hope. Evan gathered Tick's broken form. "I'll come back for you," he promised Shara. The Proximar woman's eyes found his, fierce clarity cutting through pain. "My daughter," she rasped. "Only her." Evan nodded and turned to Rhea. "Run." Now they sprinted across the remaining distance. Acid rain scorched their skin. Hunter's shots kicked up steam where they struck ground around them. Rhea reached the vehicle first, yanking the door open. Evan placed Tick's damaged frame inside, then turned back for Shara. The Proximar woman lay where they'd left her, but her eyes tracked their movement, a final vigil for her child's escape. A hunter appeared from the storm, weapon raised. Evan ducked as shots peppered the transport's hull, metal screaming under impact. "We have to go!" Rhea screamed from inside. Evan looked back at Shara. The giantess gave an almost imperceptible nod, then closed her eyes. With a curse that might have been a prayer, Evan threw himself into the transport and slammed the door. Bullets struck the outer hull as he scrambled to the control panel. "Dead," he growled, hands flying over unresponsive systems. "No power." Rhea clutched Tick's power cell, her small face set with determination despite tears cutting clean tracks through grime on her cheeks. "Use this." He gave it to us. Evan worked frantically, stripping wires, bypassing safety systems, integrating Tick's power cell into the transport's engines. His hands moved with desperate precision, every second measured in bullets striking the hull. "Come on," he muttered. "Come on." The engine coughed once, twice. Rhea pressed her face against the viewport. Outside, hunters closing in, her mother's motionless form growing smaller in the acid rain. With a roar that shook the entire frame, the transport's engine caught. Lights flared across the control panel, a cascade of emergency alerts in red and amber. Evan grabbed the controls, slammed the accelerator. The transport lurched forward, tires spinning on slick ground before finding purchase. They shot across the yard, bursting through the ring of hunters. Inside the cabin, a tangle of pain and tears. Rhea curled protectively around Tick's damaged body, her small frame racked with sobs. Evan drove with single-minded focus, putting distance between them and the burning complex. The acid storm battered the transport mercilessly. It ate through the outer plating, reducing visibility to near zero. They bounced over broken terrain, the frame groaning in protest. "Where?" Rhea asked, voice small against the storm's howl. Evan checked the failing navigation system. "Starport outskirts, beyond the fire line. If we make it." Tick's remaining sensor flickered weakly, systems running on auxiliary power. "Probability of success decreasing," he managed through his damaged voice modulator. Don't, Evan said sharply. Don't calculate. Stay with us. The transport pushed onward. Its overtaxed engine screamed under the strain. The landscape blurred into a hellscape of fire and acid rain, broken only by lightning strikes illuminating the devastation. Inside, Shara's pendant lay in Ria's palm, its blue stone catching what little light remained. The girl stared at it like it held answers. Mother said it would lead us home, she whispered. Evan's hands tightened on the controls. What home? Ria's eyes, too old for her young face, met his. Anywhere they stop hunting us. The words hung between them, heavy with truth and loss. Evan had no answer that wouldn't taste like ash. He focused on driving. On surviving the next minute, the next mile. The transport's engine coughed and sputtered. Tick's power cell pushed beyond limits. Systems failing, Tick reported, voice fainter. Fuel depleted. The transport began to slow. The engine's roar diminished to a whine, then a whisper. The vehicle shuddered twice, then rolled to a final stop. They'd reached the starport outskirts, but no further. The acid storm continued to rage, but they'd passed beyond the fire line. Everything was gray, sky, ground, the scorched metal of the transport's hull. Evan checked the scopes. No pursuit, he said, the words hollow with exhaustion. Lost them. Ria sat motionless, staring at nothing. They'll find us again. They always do. With the engine dead, the cabin grew colder. The hiss of acid rain on metal provided a constant, mournful soundtrack to their momentary safety. Evan turned to check Tick. The dog's sensor had gone dark, but a tiny indicator on his damaged chest plate still glowed faintly, a heartbeat of light in the gathering darkness. Can you fix him? Ria asked, barely audible over the storm. Evan ran a hand over Tick's shattered frame. I don't know. Evan ran a hand over Tick's shattered frame. I don't know. A sudden pounding on the transport door made them both jump. Evan reached for his pistol, finding only an empty holster, lost somewhere in their desperate flight. The pounding came again, weaker. Evan approached cautiously, gesturing for Ria to stay back. He cracked the door open and stumbled backward in shock. Shara stood in the acid rain, her massive frame slumped against the transport. Blood mixed with rain and dirt on her blue skin in rivulets of pale purple. Somehow, impossibly, she was alive. Mother! Ria cried, rushing forward. Together they pulled Shara inside. The giantess collapsed onto the floor. Her life clearly measured now in minutes, perhaps seconds. Each breath came with a wet, rattling sound. Ria cradled her mother's head, tears falling freely. How did you find us? A ghost of a smile touched Shara's lips. Followed your heart, she whispered. One massive hand reaching to touch the pendant in Ria's hand. Blood streaked the blue stone. Evan knelt beside them, medical kit open, though he knew it was futile. Shara's eyes found his, gratitude and pain mingling in their violet depths. Trust, she said to Ria, her voice stronger for one brief moment. Live. Ria clutched her mother's hand. Don't leave me, she begged. Her fingers disappeared in her mother's massive palm, but Shara's gaze had grown distant, seeing something beyond the confines of the damaged transport. You were kinder than their swords, she whispered. And then she was gone. Silence filled the transport, broken only by the relentless drumming of acid rain on metal. Ria made no sound. Her small body curved protectively over her mother's still form, her face a mask of quiet devastation. After what might have been minutes or hours, she straightened, gently closed her mother's eyes. With ceremonial slowness, she removed the pendant from her own neck and placed it around Shara's. She's home now, Ria said quietly. Evan had no words. He sat on the floor, surrounded by broken machinery and broken promises. Tick lay silent beside him, the tiny indicator on his chest still glowing, stubborn like its owner. Ria moved to sit beside Evan. Her small hand found his. Blood, oil, and metal mixed on their intertwined fingers, the elements of their shared trauma. What happens now? She asked, her voice steady despite everything. Evan looked down at Tick's broken key in his palm, then at Shara's still form, then finally at Ria, a child who had lost everything but refused to break. We survive, he answered, voice rough with exhaustion. Keep moving. Ria's gaze dropped to Tick's shattered form. Can you fix him? Evan's fingers traced the dog's broken chassis. critical systems destroyed beyond repair. Power reserves almost gone. He had built Tick from scrap, maintained him through impossible conditions. But this, he sacrificed too much, Evan admitted. Rhea touched Tick's darkened sensor. He saved me, she whispered. Like mother. Like you tried to, Evan looked away. Shame burned through his exhaustion. Fixed nothing that mattered. Fixed enough, Rhea replied, certainty cutting through grief. We're alive. The acid rain drummed against the hull, eating through metal in tiny persistent increments. Soon even this shelter would fail them. Rhea took Tick's broken key from Evan's palm. She studied it, then placed it alongside her mother's pendant. 2 treasures. 2 impossible losses. Higher ground, Evan said, pulling himself up. Starport might have supplies, communication equipment. Rhea nodded but didn't move. Need to say goodbye first. Evan stepped away, giving her space with her mother's body. He gathered what little remained, his damaged toolkit, half-empty canteen, Tick's auxiliary power cell. When Rhea finally joined him, her face was dry, her eyes clear. She had grown years older in hours. Ready, she said simply. They prepared to venture into the storm. Evan wrapped Tick's broken frame in his jacket, cradling the mechanical dog like precious cargo. Rhea stood at the transport door, pendant and key clutched in her small fist, facing the acid rain with grim determination. Stay close, Evan told her. Rain burns, but we can make it. Rhea looked up at him. Trust and doubt warred in her expression. Why still helping me? I'm not your kind. The question struck Evan like a physical blow. In her eyes, he saw reflections of every refugee he'd turned away, every cry for help he'd ignored in the name of self-preservation. Because, he said, slowly, realization dawning even as he spoke, we're more alike than different. Both running, both broken, both. He paused, searching. Alone? Rhea offered. Evan shook his head. Not anymore. They stepped into the acid storm together. Rain hissed against their skin as they moved toward the distant lights of the starport. Behind them, the transport stood like a monument, housing the body of a warrior who had fought to her last breath for her child's freedom. The journey across scorched earth was agony, each step a battle against pain and exhaustion. The acid rain left angry red welts where it touched exposed skin. Still they pressed on, driven by the primal need to survive. Halfway to the starport, Tick's indicator light flickered violently, then stabilized at a dim glow. Evan checked the dog's systems, fear clutching at his throat. He's fighting, he told Rhea, still trying to complete his mission. Rhea touched the mechanical dog's damaged head. What mission? To protect, Evan answered, voice thick. Never leave anyone behind. They trudged onward, 2 battered figures carrying a broken guardian between them. The starport loomed ahead, structures gray against the toxic sky. As they approached the outskirts, Tick's indicator suddenly brightened. His remaining optical sensor flickered weakly to life. Evan, bisa, the dog's voice modulator crackled, barely audible above the storm. Mission, status? Evan's steps faltered. Safe, Tick, we're safe. You did it. The mechanical dog's sensor turned slightly, finding Rhea. Child? Secured? I'm here, Rhea said, her hand resting on Tick's plating. You saved me. Satisfaction emanated from the broken machine. Good. That's good. They found shelter beneath a collapsed landing pad. The overhanging metal provided relief from the acid rain. Carefully, Evan laid Tick down on the driest patch of ground. The dog's plating gleamed dully in the dim light. Rest mode, Tick, he ordered gently. Conserve power. But the dog's sensor remained fixed on Rhea. She has your wrench, Tick observed, voice fading with each word. Evan glanced at the tool still clutched in Rhea's hand. His old army wrench, scored and dented from years of use. A tool that had built and repaired, cauterized wounds, broken down barriers. She needs it more than I do, Evan replied. Tick's voice modulator emitted a sound almost like a laugh. Always giving away your tools. Rhea looked between them, confusion momentarily replacing grief. What does he mean? Old joke between us, Evan said. Built Tick from spare parts. Gave him everything I had. He thinks I never learned to keep anything for myself. The dog's optical sensor dimmed. Not joke. Truth. Rhea considered this, turning the wrench over in her hands. Then with solemn ceremony, she placed it beside Tick. "I'm giving it back," she said. "Fix him." The simplicity of her faith struck Evan speechless. He looked at the wrench, then at Tick's catastrophically damaged frame. The repairs needed went far beyond what any single tool could accomplish. But Rhea watched him with such certainty that he found himself reaching for the wrench. "I'll try," he promised. As Evan began working, Rhea settled beside him. Her small body radiated exhaustion, but her eyes remained alert, watching his every move. Outside their shelter, the acid storm began to abate. Gray light filtered through toxic clouds. "Tell me about him," Rhea said quietly, nodding toward Tick. "Where did he come from?" Evan's hands continued working as he spoke. Military surplus, combat scout model, decommissioned after the border wars. Found him in a scrap heap, memory wiped, half his systems fried. "Like me," Rhea murmured. "No home, no people." Evan paused, looked at her. "Yes," he acknowledged. "Like you." "And you fixed him." "Tried." Evan resumed his work, bypassing damaged circuits, rerouting power through the least damaged systems. His fingers were stained with Tick's hydraulic fluid, dark against his skin. But he fixed himself too. Adapted, learned, became more than his programming. Rhea's fingers traced the pattern of dents on Tick's plating. "Will he learn again? After you fix him?" The question hung between them, weighted with hope Evan couldn't extinguish. "If anyone could," he said carefully, "it would be Tick." They sat in silence, broken only by the fading storm and the quiet click of Evan's tools against Tick's metal frame. Eventually, Rhea's exhaustion won. She drifted into uneasy sleep against Evan's shoulder, her body twitching with dreams. As night fell over the wasteland, Evan continued to work by the light of a salvaged emergency lamp. He had done everything possible, rerouted power, bypassed damaged systems, cannibalized parts of his own equipment to replace Tick's shattered components. But the dog's indicator light continued to fade, his systems shutting down one by one. "Don't you dare," Evan whispered fiercely, hands trembling. "Don't you dare leave us now." Tick's optical sensor flickered weakly. "Mission complete," the dog rasped. "Child, safe." "She needs you," Evan insisted, voice breaking. "I need you." The mechanical dog's damaged voice modulator emitted a sound like a sigh. "Always. So stubborn." Beside them, Rhea stirred in her sleep, face troubled by dreams. One small hand still clutched her mother's pendant and Tick's broken key against her heart. "See?" Evan gestured toward the sleeping child. "She's counting on you. On us." Tick's remaining sensor studied the girl. "She is strong," the dog observed. "Stronger than we know." "All the more reason to stick around," Evan argued, desperation edging his voice. "See what she becomes." Night deepened around them. Stars appeared through breaks in the toxic clouds. In the distance, lights from the starport created a false dawn, promising civilization, however fragile. Tick's systems continued their slow shutdown, but his optical sensor remained fixed on Rhea. "She will need protection," the dog said, each word clearly an effort. "I'll protect her," Evan promised. "Not enough," Tick countered. "World 2, dangerous. Hunters will return." Evan's hand stilled on his tools. "What are you saying?" The mechanical dog's voice strengthened briefly as if gathering his remaining power for one final message. "Transfer my core protocols to your neural link. Use my combat systems, my memory." Evan recoiled. "That's suicide. Your consciousness—" "Not suicide," Tick interrupted. "Evolution, adaptation." His optical sensor flickered toward Rhea. "Family." The word hung between them, laden with meaning never acknowledged. 8 years together. Surviving against impossible odds. More than owner and machine. More than companions. Evan's throat tightened. "Has to be another way." "There isn't," Tick replied simply. Procedure." He did. The neural link implanted during his military service allowed limited interface with compatible systems. He had used it for diagnostics, for data transfer, but never for something like this. "Could kill us both," Evan warned. Tick's voice was fading again. "Worth risk." Outside their shelter, shelter, the acid rain had stopped completely, leaving an eerie silence broken only by the distant hum of the starport's generators. Dawn was hours away, but already the eastern sky showed the first hint of lightning. Rhea shifted in her sleep, a small sound of distress escaping her. Nightmares, horrors no child should carry. Evan looked at her, then at Tick, decision crystallizing. Tell me what to do. With painstaking precision, Tick guided him through the process, exposing the neural interface port at the base of the dog's damaged skull, configuring the transfer protocols, preparing his own neural link to receive the data. Core memories only, Evan insisted. Combat protocols, navigation, nothing else. Everything, Tick countered weakly. All or nothing. They argued in whispers, time slipping away with each exchange. Finally, Evan conceded, understanding that Tick's sacrifice would be meaningless if incomplete. Ready? He asked, hands steady now despite the enormity of what they were about to attempt. Tick's optical sensor dimmed to almost nothing. Ready. Evan activated the neural link, feeling the familiar tingle at the base of his skull as the connection established. He placed his hand on Tick's central processor, initiating the transfer. Pain exploded behind his eyes, white-hot and all-consuming. Memories not his own flooded his consciousness. Combat scenarios, tactical assessments, loyalty protocols. And beneath it all, something unexpected. Emotion, devotion, protectiveness, joy. Tick's entire existence pouring into his mind like molten metal. Loyalty protocols. And beneath it all, something unexpected. Emotion, devotion, protectiveness, joy. Tick's entire existence pouring into his mind like molten metal. When it ended, Evan found himself on his knees, gasping for breath. Beside him, Tick lay motionless, his indicator light dark, system silent. But in Evan's mind, a new presence stirred, familiar yet different. Not a voice exactly, but an awareness. A companion. We are functional, the presence observed clinically. Transfer successful. Tick, Evan whispered, tears streaming down his face. Not precisely, came the reply. An integration, adaptation, evolution. Rhea awoke then, blinking at the scene before her. Evan kneeling beside Tick's motionless form, tears on his face, neural transfer equipment scattered around them. What happened? She asked, fear sharpening her voice. Is he? Evan looked at her, struggling for words. How do you tell a child who had lost everything that death wasn't always the end? He's here, Evan said finally, tapping his temple. Part of him, the most important part. Rhea's eyes widened. Inside you? Yes, Evan took her small hand in his. He couldn't stay in his old body. Too damaged, but he wouldn't leave us. The child requires further explanation, the presence in his mind noted. Her cultural framework lacks context for neural integration. Quiet, Evan muttered. I'm handling it. Rhea tilted her head. Are you talking to him? Can I talk to him too? Evan nodded. He can hear you. Through me. The girl moved closer, staring intently at Evan as if trying to glimpse Tick behind his eyes. Are you still you? She asked the air between them. Tell her I am still her protector, the presence instructed. Tell her I still remember my promise. He says he's still your protector, Evan relayed. He remembers his promise. Rhea's face softened. To keep me safe. Yes, the girl considered this, her young mind processing a concept many adults would struggle to accept. Then with the adaptability of childhood, she nodded. Okay, she said simply. But I'll miss seeing him. The sentiment is reciprocated, the presence acknowledged, emotion coloring the thought. Outside their shelter, dawn touched the horizon. The acid storm had cleared completely, leaving a wasteland washed clean of everything but its essential harshness. We should go, Evan said, gathering their meager supplies. Hunters could still be tracking us. Rhea looked at Tick's empty shell. What about him? Evan gently lifted the dog's broken frame. We take him with us. Parts of him can still help us. Practical, the presence approved. The chassis contains valuable components. But Evan sensed the deeper emotion beneath the assessment. Gratitude that the vessel which had housed him for so long would not be abandoned. They emerged into the gray morning light. The starport stood before them, utilitarian structures promising sanctuary, however temporary. Rhea walked beside Evan, one small hand holding his, the other clutching her mother's pendant and Tick's broken key. Behind them stretched the wasteland they had traversed, marked by fire and blood and sacrifice. "Where will we go?" Rhea asked, eyes on the horizon. Evan felt the presence in his mind, calculating, analyzing, planning. Tick's strategic protocols merging with his own instincts. Southeast, the presence suggested, refugee settlements, proximity to medical facilities for the child, adequate concealment from hunter patrols. "Southeast," Evan answered. "Settlements there. People who might help us." Rhea's grip on his hand tightened. "Will they hurt me?" For being different, the question struck at Evan's core. He had seen the cruelty of desperate humans toward those they deemed other. But he had also witnessed unexpected kindness, alliance forged in survival's crucible. "Some might try," he admitted, "but they'll have to go through us first." Affirmative, the presence concurred, combat protocols humming beneath the thought. The child's safety is our primary directive. They walked on in silence, 3 souls in 2 bodies, moving toward an uncertain future. Ahead, the starport's gates stood open, neither welcoming nor forbidding. Simply there, a threshold to be crossed. Rhea stopped just before the gates, looking back at the wasteland one last time. In the distance, the transport that held her mother's body was barely visible, a dark speck against the gray landscape. "Goodbye," she whispered, too quietly for anyone but herself to hear. Then she turned, straightened her small shoulders, and stepped forward with Evan into whatever waited beyond. Behind them, the acid rain began to fall once more, washing away their footprints, erasing all evidence of their passage except for what they carried within. Blood, oil, metal mixing on their hands, the elements of their shared trauma, their unlikely bond, their new beginning. He had fixed nothing that mattered, but lost what couldn't be repaired, and yet somehow they went on.